Hello and welcome along to my channel. My name's Suzanne and I garden and grow cut flowers in Devon in the UK. And today's video is a little project where we're going to be making an autumnal wreath that is to be laid flat, and the wreath is going to be used for a natural burial. This is some moss that I collected a couple of weeks ago, but it's still nice and green, and yeah, hopefully that will hold the moisture enough. I had lengths of willow like this in a bucket that were rooting, and in actual fact I've just decided to use some of those pieces to make my base. So you can see the roots on the bits of willow I've used. This wreath will be for a home burial in a woodland, a new plantation. So it's really important that everything is completely natural and that it can be left to biodegrade, and that it won't cause any harm to the environment where it's going to be left. So the willow, it's very local actually, so all of the hedgerow materials and willow and everything I'm using is what would be found naturally in the area where the plantation is. So anyway, so I've just gone ahead and made that willow hoop. I do have a video of me making willow hoops, which I will put in the description. I think it's quite a long video because I talk all about making willow hoops from fresh willow like this, but also using buff willow, which is a kiln dried willow. But as I say, I'll pop the link in the descriptions for that. So what I want to do now is I want to check I've got enough moss. So I'm going to bind this base now in moss, ready for adding the foliage tomorrow in the morning. I've got my moss. I may need to soak it a little bit more again once it's on the reef ring, but I can do that overnight. And the idea is you just want the moss on the top and the sides. You're not going to need it at the back. I will actually, oh, I've got the wrong snips. I've taken everything out of my shed now for winter, so I've not got as good a supplies as I have had in here. Okay, so let's just get rid of, they were the, to be fair, I can probably still grow these rooted bits of willow, these chunky bits, if I put them in some water, because they've got roots, so that's what I will do. Okay, so now I've made myself a back and a front. So I've put the cuts at the back. Not that it's really going to matter. The back's not going to be seen. You need, oh, there's a woodlouse there. Oh, yeah, you don't want to be tied up in a wreath. You need more moss than you would think for this. If you don't use enough moss in a fresh sort of foliage and flower wreath, you won't actually be able to stick the flower stems into it. I've made that mistake before, so you always need a lot more than you think. And to have, you know, an even shape and balance, you want to distribute your moss evenly around the base. I'll show you what it looks like before I'm going to tie it on in just a moment. A bit more at the back here. Okay, so that's the moss just laid around the willow base there, and now we're going to tie it using jute twine. If you were going to hang this wreath on a door, it always makes sense to tie a twine loop onto the base before you do this process, but this wreath will be laid flat. So there's no need to have any means of tying it up. So you're not going to see the twine because the twine is just to hold the moss on. So it doesn't matter how tied or untied it is, but you do want it to be tight. The idea is just to go round a few times, just binding the moss to the base. And I'll just go around a few times. And for doing these wreaths, you really do want it on a roll, because it just takes you ages to do it with an unravelled piece of string. Because it's raining, I actually will leave this outside tonight, and that way in the morning it will be nice and moist, ready to add the flowers. Fresh flower wreaths are one of those things that do seem really expensive when you buy them, but they're very time consuming. They use an awful lot of plant material. Yeah, very labour intensive. So yeah, you use a lot of materials. I mean, I use my own homegrown moss, but lots of people are not fortunate enough to have that, so they'll be buying moss. And you know, you do need a fair bit of just moss. So if you've had to pay for that, some people do their Christmas wreaths on fresh moss size. I do my table centres like this, but considerably smaller. But actually, I find just the foliage lasts, because it's hung outside on the door, lasts really well without the moss. But I think it's when you take stuff indoors that it doesn't last so well. Right, now I deliberately left the beginning bit of string where I tied it long, so that I could now tie them together, which is what we will do. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to put this outside in the rain now, and I will see you all in the morning to begin the process of making it look a bit greener and autumnal. So I've selected a lot of hedgerow ingredients for this particular wreath. And I've even included things that, you know, you'd never put in a retail bouquet, so because they started to turn. So this is some beech that started now to turn brown into its autumn colours. But this is the sort of texture and colour that we're going for. We're going for rustic, natural, autumnal tones. So also from the hedgerow, we've got some blackthorn with some sloes. We've got some ivy, which hasn't quite gone to seed yet, but it's just started to form the seed heads. Or berries, if you like. It's probably more berries, isn't it? We've got some hawthorn with berries. I got some oak because I wanted some acorns, but I see that in the course of it conditioning on the side there, that I've actually lost quite a few of the acorns. And actually I'm a little bit suspicious. It looks more like they've been eaten by some sort of creature. And the reason I say that is because there are all of the telltale crumbs. They didn't just fall off, did they? So that's a little bit unfortunate. So I've obviously got a mouse in here, which is wonderful. And what else have we got? So not from the hedgerow, but I've got lots of viburnum here because I want a good green base. From the garden, I've grown this particular rose because it was said that it has very good rose hips. I actually saw the rose initially in an RHS garden, and I'm very pleased it does have exceptionally good rose hips. I'm afraid I cannot remember how to pronounce, so I'll just pop that on the screen now. It's a single, very velvety burgundy red rose. I've got it in a temporary location at the moment. I always know where it's going, but where it's going isn't ready yet, but it seems happy where it is. Okay, and then we've got some dried elements. So we have got some bracken, which has gone that beautiful golden colour, some poppy seed heads, and I thought I had 3 teasel heads, so I seem to have lost one somewhere along the lines. I might have to go and get another one from the shed because I don't like to work. I like to work in uneven numbers. Oh no, here it is. It's okay, it just fell out. And then we've gone for not very many flowers, just a few, because it's supposed to be more of a hedgerow field. So we've got some dahlias. I've got one rose. Dahlias, I don't know which this one is, but this is Zundup Mystery Fox. This is, I'll write it in, something blackberry. This is Rosemary's Blush. Sorry, Rosemary's Dawn. Rosemary's Blush is actually a pink. And then this is Brown Sugar. And we've got some asters here, some zinnias, and a straw flower that had fallen over in the wind. Okay, yeah, and that's the little collection of flowers we're going to use. I may well add some amaranthus as well. I've got it, there's some hung up here drying, and the reason I can't really get to the other piece is because it's in the bucket behind you there. So I may use some amaranthus, and I may also use some auroch, but I'll decide that when I've get to the sort of creative process. The first process now is going to be just getting a really good base of foliage onto the wreath ring. One of the most important things when you're greening up your wreath is to make sure that you've got a really sharp point on the end of your foliage. And it's not a bad idea now just to recut them all into a nice sharp point. If your point isn't sharp enough, it's not going to go in to the wreath. You want to try and face everything the same way. And this process is rather dull. So, because all I'm going to do at the moment is cover this in viburnum. So I'll pop you on a time lapse for that. So I've just greened up the viburnum, and there are still lots of gaps, but that's okay because we've still got the other green things. We've got the oak, we've got the ivy, we've got the beech. So this was just to give the main base colour and to confirm sort of the structure, the shape. So we've done that now. So now I think we'll carry on with green things. So we'll work with the ivy now. I don't want this to look too Christmassy, so we don't want to. I've probably got too much ivy in all fairness, but there are still quite a lot of mossy areas that the ivy will be good at hiding. This is, I suppose, not very creative, this part of the process, because this is just hiding moss. Once the moss is hidden, then things get a bit more creative. And it really nice sharp points, just so that everything's going to hold in the moss and not going to fall off. And that's why it really is important to make sure you've got enough moss, because if you haven't, things will fall out. If you can feel something's not going in, don't be afraid to just take it out and see if it will go somewhere else. It's amazing just the difference that little bit of ivy has made already. I'm keeping my ivy in quite big clumpy bits. we're going for really natural. We don't want this to look formal in any way. If people want high street floristry for a funeral, they'll go to a high street florist. Everyone has different tastes in art, in dancing, in music, and exactly the same with flowers. Some people would think this is messy, untidy. It's just come out of the hedge. It's funny actually, because I think a lot of people would see this almost as a sort of a budget cheaper alternative, but actually things like this are far more labour intensive and costly than something you may have made in floral foam with some chrysanthemums that have come over from Holland or wherever. Those things are actually not that labour intensive. I'll get some backlash on that. That's not fair. They are labour intensive, but in a very different way. I did start doing lots of floristry training, and the reason I decided actually not to continue with it is because I don't like a lot of conventional floristry. I don't enjoy it. I really like to be creative, which is why I always call myself more of an artisan florist. And at the end of the day, if you're at home and you're thinking of start growing cut flowers, you will have your own style, and your customers will either like your style or they won't. And if nobody likes your style, then you won't have any customers. If you have your own style and you get a following, then people will order things from you. Whether or not you have a certificate hung up that says you're a master florist or not. The only certificate I've got hidden behind here is my business floristry unit. That's not, well, it is helpful, but it's not helpful for making this wreath, although it is, because it's helped it be costed. So I'm looking for an even distribution of the ivy. But not a formal distribution. When I did my business unit, we were asked to write down a word which was going to sort of describe our business style. It could have been bright or bold or colourful or whatever word you liked. And the word that I chose, that I wrote down, was rustic, but I wasn't allowed to tell anybody else on the course. And the idea was that we then made a mood board, and the other members on the course had to guess our word. Okay, what do we think? I think just a couple more bits here and here, and then we'll move on to the beach. I've just about guessed the ivy quantity, just about right actually, which is good. Got a few more bits with no flowers on, but there we are. So that's where we are now. And we will work with the beach next. And I want to really get a lot of this beach in around the edges, because I don't want the beach to now overpower our green foil. I want it, as an extra element, but I don't want it to take over what we've just done. But I mean, these are the bits, these bits are bits that I'm more likely to have where you can see them. I'm not actually re-snipping the beech because there's not really any point. It's already started to, you know, to die off now for the winter. There's no point in me trying to rehydrate these really woody stems. The only reason I would recut is, for example, here I just need a sharper point, otherwise it's not going to go in. If something feels like it's going to fall out when you put it in, take it out and put it somewhere else, because if it feels like it's going to fall out, it will. I'm also putting some on the inside, not just the outside, again, so we want it evenly distributed. Some of the beech is possibly a little bit too thick. See, that's a better bit, that bit's nice and thin. If it's too thick, no matter how sharp you do the point, it's not going to go in easily. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll do the oak. And I really do now want to be trying to fill in any holes. See if I can find some acorns that haven't been eaten by my little mousy friend. I don't think I've got hardly any acorns left because of that mouse. And the reason that's annoying is because actually I know there are loads of acorns down at my parents' house, but I haven't actually got a huge amount of acorns on my tree that is just nibbled them all. Nibbled the bottoms of them all. Okay. Oh well, we're not going to lose any sleep over it. We'll work with what we've got. We've got the berries and, you know, we've got so many other elements that can go in here. So we won't go crazy with the hawthorn. Don't forget the bottom. It's very easy when you're doing these things just to sort of concentrate on what you can see at the top. But yeah, you really want to make sure that from when it's seen from above, when it's seen from the sides, that there's interest, there's colour, there's texture. I think I will put some more hawthorn in a minute, but I just want to try and get these sloes in. And again, I may well add some more hawthorn and blackthorn in a minute, but we're just getting to the point where we want to make sure there's room for our elements. These are very, very heavy rose hips. So what I want to try and do is thread them really in to be supported by the other foliage, but still make sure that I get the, there like that, make sure that I get it pushed into the moss. The stems of these rose hips are not very strong. I think if I was going to use them again, I'd put them in earlier and I could really see what I was doing, and then sort of put the foliage around them to support them. Right, well we might add some more hawthorn and sloes in a minute, but we'll see if we can add some flowers now. And I may not add all of these flowers. If you've got snips and they're crushing the end of your stems, change them. Also, it stops the flower being able to take up any water. I should think. Oh, I just did it again. Those pink snips are good for woody stuff, but not so good for stuff like this. Right, put the pink snips away now on the soft stems before you do it again. Those of you who follow my channel, if you're wondering where my really good snips are, they're in the house. Most of my kit's been taken in now because it's damp out here and I don't want to ruin them. The pom-pom dahlias are really good in buttonholes and things like this. They will cope out of water. Especially if they're not going to have stem to flop, so if you're pushing them right in, they can't really wilt, and they stay fairly fresh looking. I don't know why, but I really think I would like a rose. Just one rose. I love this rosemary dawn dahlia. I wonder if it's my favourite dahlia. This one's growing on me though, but there are a few where a bit like Zandet mixed with Fox often gets, it's an orange that often gets a purple petal. This one I found is often getting one pink petal. It's fine in your garden, but actually if you're doing cut flowers, you want them all to be true. You don't want any to come out with imperfections like that. This is as much for me as it is for you. Oh, we've lost one of our acorns as well now. Do you know what? I think I would like a bit of amaranthus. Just a little bit. I just feel like we need that. This needs to be colourful, autumnal but colourful. And I just feel like we could do with that, that pop of deeper colour. Trying to prick my finger. I've just gone for 3 teasel and 3 poppies. I love bracken. Just using the bits with slightly chunkier stem, they seem to be going a lot better. Right, now this is side where to add a few more flowers to it. I think we probably need a flower here somewhere, and maybe here, but it doesn't need to be that long. Okay, I think we're done now. Just checking for interest all the way around. Yeah. Okay, I don't know how long that took me. I didn't look at the clock when I started and I didn't look at the clock when I finished. But that can be packaged up now. I'll just take a few photographs of it. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody, today to make my autumnal wreath. And I've got to go and get myself organised now for my road trip down to Cornwall for my dressage competition. There may be a video about that. There was a tiny bit of interest. We'll see how it goes. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.